Everybody, we're about to start this, so bear with us for a second, and I hope everyone's doing well. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Top of the Morning. I am Brittany Ronk, and I am here on the USS Constellation with the fabulous Jar. Come on, a little bit more excitement than that.
Hey, I'm excited.
We've had him once before, but you can never get enough stories from this man.
Well, a lot of the people in the Baltimore area knew me from the group Renaud and the Junction, so they knew me as Renaud. But my management, as I moved into Motown and signed with them, decided to change my name like you would get a seal or Madonna to my initials, which is Jar.
Right, but obviously not his full name, Jean Albert Renaud, right? About to say, I was just...
You got it down, bro.
I've been practicing, don't you fret. So I would love to start getting into some of these questions with you. As we are already starting to talk about, you've had a stellar career from opening up for Michael Jackson and 5 to Sly and so many others. So I just would like to know, how did you start down that path? Like, what got you towards entertainment?
Well, basically, the entertainment started when I was a young kid in the church, because the first thing that I really got into being in front of an audience to perform was the choir. So I was in the choir. And then in school...
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I just want to let our lovely audience know that if you hear those cop cars and everything going around, we are live at the USS Constellation in the downtown Inner Harbor. Whew. And so I am sorry about that, but please continue.
Okay, but from then, you enter school, kindergarten, first grades and all. And most of those areas there are the teachers who are trying to entertain you.
Right.
To first get your attention, then to get you to trust them so that they can teach you something. And so learning those aspects of what the teachers would do, what I did in the choir and by performing in there, let me know that I guess as a young kid, we're all seeking attention.
Fair,
so,
fair.
Love and attention. And we're into, I guess, the most explorative journeys of our lives, because we're in the beginning of learning how to communicate.
Right.
And the entertainment life definitely is a beautiful way to entertain on a larger scale rather than try to do the one-on-one if you have something that you can do, whether you can draw, whether you can dance, or you can sing, and you can see that in our cultures today, that is through the social networking, that's ruling. Music, dance, singing, modeling, all those things.
Love using an art to just feel special. Everybody wants to feel special in their own right.
Right.
And then with your talent, it kind of just pushed you towards that way.
Well, I turned basically pro at 13. I was in New York City, but my music then was, because my whole family at that time was into jazz.
Oh, wow.
Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald, Basie, Ellington. So that's what I was listening to in the context of what children are listening now today in their family structure. I'm quite certainly not listening to Basie or Sir Vaughan or Duke Ellington.
Right.
So through that, I fell in love with Sinatra.
Yeah, I love Sinatra.
And it was probably, as a vocalist, his phrasing alone, how you phrase to get a sentence out, and then the enunciation of the words. Because a song is a song, but if you're more interested in your technique and your style, and no one understood a thing that you sang, you got all your gyrations and everything that you did with that. But the beauty of a song is, first, a song starts off as a poem.
Absolutely.
Then you establish a melody, and that's what makes a song. Not the arrangement. The arrangement is after. But the melody and the lyrics are the only thing you can copyright to own the song. Now, if you want to own the copyright of the orchestral arrangement, that's another copyright.
Right.
So it just moves on and on. But my family kind of broke up, and we were having a hard time with my mother trying to raise 2 kids. So I decided to drop out of the school and drop out of what I was trying to do to pursue my career as an artist. Wow. And enter the military.
Wow.
So in 1960, I entered the United States Army. And 8 months after that, I won a entertainment contest in the military that was put on by the Navy, the Marines, all of them, to find who had entered the military that the military could use, whether you were a basketball player, football player, but if you were a singer like Elvis, they wanted you with special services.
Huh.
So you didn't have to worry about going out there and after getting out of basic and doing too much about worrying about, and the Vietnam War was just in the forefront
Right.
So I won jazz vocalist.
That's amazing.
Shipped me out of America, sent me to Japan first, Okinawa, entertained the officers' clubs and all there. Next thing I know, I'm in Germany with an entertainment company, with an 18-piece band kicking me as I performing for dignitaries, the generals, the officers' clubs, the NCO clubs. And when I got out, I still was in reserve, but when I got out, I tried a little job here, but you know, when you're in the military, you're told what to do over and over and over again all the time. So I was kind of like saying, okay, well, I went into the military being told what to do by my family structure.
Right.
And I thought I'd gotten out of the house. Now I'm in the military. Now this is another thing.
Just yelling.
Even though it was more in an entertainment setting. And I put a band together.
Just to put a quick break with you while you took that second, we are also having live tours. If you see anybody walking and coming in and out, don't be distracted. But so you put a band together, you got this started, even though you went from the Army, which, by the way, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Yeah. So when do you feel like you truly, like, made it?
Well, I made it when I got out and put a band together, and about 2 years later than that, Barry Gordy's right-hand man at the time was a guy named Hubert Abner.
Remember Abner. Gonna take a quick pause. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to read something and I cannot. Yes, okay. I had a quick note from our editor. We actually have an amazing documentary on our YouTube, Hanbury Cross, that won a bronze telly. Unless that's not what you're talking about.
All right, so let's just cut. Talk about his documentary.
His documentary, of course. You guys got a quick little behind the scenes there. But I would love to hear more about your documentary.
Well, I was quite honored that that happened. I didn't expect it. I was doing some work with a friend of mine who was with the Broadcasters Institute of Baltimore. And he wanted to take a vacation, but he was saying, I need someone that knows how to come in here because these are young producers and record people and all.
Right.
That would know how to come in here and communicate with them on those topics. And so I told him I would come in. And about 3 or 4 times after I had done that, he was holding a class, and a young black film producer named Brian Barber won the President's Cup for filmmaking.
Wow.
So this is one of the first black in the areas of producing and directing films.
Wow.
That was coming up through the industry because it hadn't had many people of color
Yeah.
involved in that as actors or whatever.
Absolutely.
And he said, I want to do a feature on someone in Maryland that deals with horses. So he wanted to do, you know, because of the industry that happened with the Preakness and the second leg, the Triple Crown, he wanted to embellish Maryland's history in horses. And he says, I've got just a guy for you. He says, let me call him and see if he will okay to give you his phone number and for you all to sit down and have a conversation. So about a week and a half later, I got a phone call, and Mr. Barber said, I would be very interested in doing a small short on you.
Wow.
About your history with horses. And I said, excellent. I says,
Right.
He says, are you still? I says, yes. As a matter of fact, I just got back from overseas from a major event that I did over there in the Middle East for training the Royal Family's endurance horses,
Wow.
the Arabians. And so he came with his wife, And we sat and we talked. And in the conversation, communication is an amazing thing once you start to talk. So,
Once you start to talk, but we actually have a quick break probably. You two be a little finicky, so we're going to throw one in here real quick. See you in a second. Hi, welcome back to Top of the Morning. I'm Brittany Ronk, and we're here with Jar still. And you were just telling us about your documentary, how he had called you up and said, I want to do this short on you.
so we started off trying to communicate because he wanted some history
Right.
about the horses. But my history with the horses is also my history with the entertainment industry.
Really?
Yes, because, when you're looking at before you're starting to ride, I'm part Native American, two nations, African American, and European is Irish and French. That's where the name came from. So,
Makes sense.
But when I started to also use the entertainment, people saw me work with horses and dogs.
Wow.
And that's something I also did in the military before I got into special services with the entertainment, was training dogs for the missile sites in Japan and the Ryukyu Islands.
That's amazing.
So they saw my ability to, I guess some people call dog whisperers or call horse whisperers. I never had adjusted to that term. I was just very good with working with animals.
Right.
And being half animal myself, sure, we'll leave that alone.
Not touch on that
People
one.
out there in Maryland who know me, that's what they used to call me, the animal. All right, so I tried to live up to that name. But Brian Barber started listening to my conversation, and all of a sudden, all the other things that I had done, and entertainers and artists and musicians and actors that I had trained to ride for film. So he said, you trained this person, you trained that person, you did this, you did that. I said, yes, and I says a lot of that training was because we were all in the entertainment industry, but roles came up.
Yeah, and just 1 second, if you hear the people getting loud in the back, there are tours and stuff happening throughout, so please bear with us, because this is an incredible story. I'm tuned in on the training. I know I need to focus on you guys a little bit more.
Well, what was supposed to be maybe like a 15-minute presentation, after we finished talking, he says, man, I would like to do a major piece on you. And so he asked me to start sending my bios, my information, photographs. Had been documented. I had been on television. You get a lot of PR once you've been with a label like Motown.
Right.
And you're traveling with those kind of artists. 4 years later, he completed Jar Journey of a Horseman. To date, it has won 7 film festivals.
Wow, that's incredible.
It was also available for me to also use because I'm one of the main people trying to save the last of the wild horses of America, the Mustang. So I wrote a lot of music about For the Love of the Horse.
Right.
And then I started to use that when I was able to, through my entertainment industry, to make the kind of money that it took to afford to buy my dream as a 6-year-old kid, to buy a horse ranch.
Wow. So you went into entertainment, but your dream has always been with the horses.
With the horses.
Wow.
So I was able to accomplish that. And I was looking at the power of what youth that came to the farm.
Right.
And their parents were having problems with them, so they wanted to dump their kids on me for horseback riding lessons. But I said, don't dump your kids for horseback riding lessons. I say, because if you want me to be interested in your child, to be interested in a horse, then the first thing that's got to happen is you got to show your child you're interested as a parent and that you trust me, because the first thing that they have is a fear. When you look at the kids I'm starting at 3 years old to put on a horse up, and they look up and they look at that, and the first question out of their mouth is, does it bite?
Oh,
So
yeah.
in a joking kind of way, I said, it's got teeth. Teeth. So that association made the parents understand that I wanted them to be a part of the training. And my training started with a philosophy on how to work with kids. Because I feel that the future of mankind are the children.
Right, absolutely.
We're already established. So if you want a better world, you got to create a better human being. And that starts as a child. Mm-hmm. But to get a child's attention and to get them to trust you, and to be patient in the time that all that takes to bring about a training to create an attraction for the child to want to participate in.
Right, not just forcing them there.
Right. So my first establishment had to be to get the child to trust me, so that the child would say, well, I trust you now. That took a period of time. Now, and if you trust me, I'm going to give you some instructions on something to do, which means you will be able to get closer to this animal, size or otherwise. So if I ask you to pet it or put your hand out, then the effort you have to expel
Right.
from you is to show you trust me to put your hand out in
Right.
front of the horse.
Trust me, not put you in a dangerous
In
position.
a dangerous position. And as we move through that, from a touch to walking to eventually you trusting me enough to get you up on the horse, is for you not to be impatient when I've got 10 of you here trying to get you all to do the same thing.
Right.
To make it affordable for the parents rather than private lessons.
Right.
The horsemanship is expensive. So the next lesson you have to learn, after you learn trust, you apply effort. The most important lesson you're going to learn in your life, that is hard for all of us, whether we're adults or children, is to wait for a passing of time to bring in fruition what you're experiencing and get better at it. That means patience.
I would say no one has patience.
That is one of the least things that I find that, in children, but I'm now looking at a lot of it as we are looking at hoping that the world will get better. We got to be patient. It took time for it to get bad, so it's going to take time for it to get better. And hopefully the re-education of the future of mankind, which are the children. If we establish a better educational program about we the people,
Right.
we humanity, rather than you humanity or me humanity, because it's all about us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was gorgeous. Gorgeous said. So, getting on to the next question, because that was, I don't think you could have said that any better. With doing that, I believe what you were kind of talking about with the at-risk youth and stuff was your Project Arrowhead.
Right.
I know you have worked with multiple, nonprofits and becoming an activist and stuff. I'd love to hear because I know I've read off of your thing that you feel that you needed to become a role model for the youth. What pushed you to want to do that?
Well, I felt that becoming the role model that's something that, a lot of people want to become a Michael Jackson or a big star or the president of the United States and feel that they are role models. We're looking at a lot of people who reach those heights and those platforms are not role models. Matter of fact, they're destructive.
Yeah.
So, and when you look at the other side of what role models can also do, it's because of let's say that in their lives, they really didn't get the love and the coaching that they wanted. They kind of fell luckily in a position where all of a sudden they went from nothing to very wealthy because of the talents they had, the music industry. And when they got the money, the number one thing they wanted to do was ego trip and showboat. So trying to get kids to realize that as a role model, all I'm trying to say, more than a role model, is I care about you.
Right.
And I'm real. And my attraction to you and what I'm trying to offer you, because I believe in you. Do you believe in you? So if you don't believe in you, how can you get anybody else to believe in you?
Right.
So it starts with, let's see how much you believe in anything that I can assist you with. Whether you want to be a singer or a dancer. But it all started through the communication. I got that first thing, trust, with that horse to generate that conversation of communication, to start bringing that child in.
Right, right.
To look at me as a role model, or better still, as a teacher, as a sensei, and earn their attention.
That was fantastic. We're going to actually go to a quick break real quick, so don't go anywhere. Well, you're stuck with us, actually. Right. And welcome back. We are still here with the lovely Jar for top of the morning, and we were just talking about what got you inspired to working with the youth and everything like that. You also work with HIV prevention, hoping for HIV prevention. I'm amazed by how much you work to give back. I want to hear everything that goes into it.
Well, thank you. Well, what happened was, being in the entertainment industry, we are probably the most promiscuous
That's fair. That's
of,
fair.
of society. We are the court jesters. We're the entertainers. So when people are looking for some release, a little peace of mind, yes, they may go to Disneyland in Florida or go to a nightclub or whatever. They're looking for someone to make them forget for a minute whatever the pressures and stress that is involved in their lives. Sometimes they overdo it by maybe initiating experiences that really don't support getting over stress, but
Right.
bring stress.
Right.
So I lost 42 friends to AIDS in
Wow.
the entertainment industry alone. That's not counting just my social life, the kids I went to school with or whatever. I stopped going to funerals. But as an entertainer, I listened to the lyrics of the many songs that are on Broadway or wherever, even on the classical stage, which is opera, are storytelling. So the stories that I was looking at was that no one was educating properly anywhere
Absolutely.
that this disease does not discriminate, that this is not a LGBTQ community disease, or a black disease, or a female disease, or it is a disease. It has rules. We were not being taught the rules, and then when we were being taught the rules, we did not allow the things that would allow us to still be promiscuous
Right.
in our passions and our desires, but safe sex and no sex.
Right.
So I created a whole campaign and a whole source musically, and I went out and got people like George Clinton. I was in The Wire, so I got a lot of the actors who were friends of mine and that who came in and did a video with me
Wow.
to say, because if you're going to look at youth and look at people, the same way you go to a concert is because who's the star? Oh, it's Mick Jagger. So the Mick Jagger fans are going to sell that out.
Right.
So when you are edifying a situation or a topic that is life-threatening, the more people that come out and say, this is not a joke, this is real, that you already admire, that you already follow me because you like their storytelling with their music. This is a story, but this is not music. So I wanted to put a story to music, which then also I was invited to John Hopkins Hospital for the Sahara Fund, when the amount of people that AIDS was being lost to AIDS over there. And I said, you've got to put some sort of an educational program, not in a frightful way, but in a way that will at least wake them up to say, oh, this is what's happening.
Right. If you don't have any idea of what's happening.
We were more interested in blame, shame, and blame games rather than prevention or owning that here we are innocent. We did the same thing with Corona, with the virus.
Yeah.
We didn't learn anything from the AIDS thing. We repeated the same thing. You know, all you have to do is understand is that nothing is perfect, but there's always a way, which is why we created a field called medicine.
Absolutely.
That you can follow. You may not want to take those medicines, but at least it's there, and thank God it's there, because if it wasn't there for heart attacks, transplants, or whatever, a lot of us wouldn't be here. So you have to put a little bit of trust in that education about how do I get past this? And I went to the condom companies, but condoms were not allowed to be put on television. Cigarettes were allowed to be put on television. Drinking ads were allowed to be put on television.
But nothing that's actually protecting.
Nothing to say, safe sex or no sex, and it's as simple as this. This is basically all we have right now. And so a lot of the people who were still going to singles bars and just going out for the peace of mind, I want to go out and find a girlfriend or a boyfriend for the evening. Not to get married, not to get in love. And that is just called recreational lovemaking, or trying to handle...
Just having a fun time.
Just trying to handle the lust factor. And when you're younger and you're crazy and you're wilder, you're going to find that that's very important in your life to try and address that without bringing a child home to your mom and your dad.
Right.
So safe sex wasn't just about not getting disease. It was about do not create a life you don't need, you don't want. And
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. A life you don't need, you don't want to.
and that is the beginning of a total change in your life. More than anything else you're going to run into is when you create another life.
Absolutely.
It affects both families, the girl's family, your family. And that means your jobs of wanting to be like a rock and roll artist like myself and a horseman and all that, it's going to come second because now you've got a life to support.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's definitely precautions that need to be taken, and you took those steps.
So the AIDS thing, when I did that, was to simply say, safe sex is not to get the disease, but safe sex is also don't wound up being a mom and a dad that you're not ready for.
Absolutely, to make a better life for the next generation that you're hoping for. I would love to go back to that documentary you were talking about. So I want to hear more about like where people can see it, just more about spreading the word on it and everything.
Okay, if you Google Brian Barber, who is the producer, because the subject matter is me, but he's the producer, and in winning the awards and everything, I won the awards as the story was about a part of my life.
Right.
It's a lot more to my life than what was in there, but that 15-minute piece he wanted to do became an hour.
Wow.
And has won multiple film festivals. And it talks about my history in America, coming up in America, from first, the structure of being raised as a child and the family structure not working, the divorce between my mother and my father, the domestic violence, the abuse I took, and being honest about it, because if you don't share these stories and talk about these stories, then no one really knows what's going on. It's the same thing when you look at if your life was coming up and in your life was involved promiscuity of the parents involving in incest with the children. Well, in these conversations now, the schools, the churches, and all are trying to say, please feel free to open that up so that it ends. Because if you don't talk about it, that whole situation being shown to you that it's supposed to be and it's right, but it's not. But no one knows what's going on if you're not saying anything.
Right, absolutely. You gotta be the one to speak up, otherwise no one else will.
Well, I had to do it with my mom and my dad because my father was beating my mother almost to death. And I had gone through a lot of domestic violence myself. So all that was in the documentary to start the story of what life was in America as a young black kid coming up in America. But not only a young black kid, a kid through the interracial relationships and marriages that we have on planet Earth. My father was Blackfoot, French, African-American. My mother was Irish, Cherokee, African-American. So it's a joke in school. Everybody says, you're Heinz 57. I say, yeah, I'm all mixed up. I'm a mutt. I say, but sometimes mutts make the best pets.
Right. I just, real quick, because we are coming to the end of our show, unfortunately, I would love to give you this opportunity to let our audience know anything you would love to tell them real quick, anything you would like to publicize to them so they can go check it out.
Well, there's a lot of things going. I've been very fortunate because of my reputation, not only in music and writing music about music, but I've been classified as a world master horseman.
Yeah. And
so I've been invited all around the world training in England, in Dubai, Qatar, Saudi Arabia. The #1 sport horse for endurance and distance, which in my culture of being part Native American, is how we rode. There was no classical riding. America's not a classical riding country. It's all natural riding. It's nature riding. So we rode away from, in the ecology movement, once we got off the horse, we created all this stuff that's polluting and poisoning our water and everything with the mechanization of what we've learned. We rode away from this planet. So I'm trying to say, slow down a little bit.
Right.
Smell the roses. And I want you to ride back to nature with the horse and educating the kids that the world may seem hard and bad, but keep a little faith, a little trust, and keep your heart alive and believe in yourself. And all of a sudden you'll find yourself there, like I'm here.
Yes, you will, and you can always find yourself here. So thank you guys so much for this awesome episode with Jar, and we will see you on the next one. Bye-bye!
And you guys, too.